Kentucky Derby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingNudes.com, and welcome back to more coverage of the Kentucky Derby as we count down the days now towards the Kentucky Derby. A little over a week away, but boy, you can tell by the sound of my voice, we're getting pretty excited as we get closer and closer by the day. All right, we're going to do a little something different for this video. I'm going to kind of take a look back at the last 10 years and what kind of trip won the Kentucky Derby, and then kind of apply what we know and how those horses won to the horses that we're currently going to have in 2023. So a little bit of different video than what we normally do, but I still, as I was researching this, thought it was very interesting. So I look back through the last 10 years. I'll go through them now kind of quickly for you. So out of the last 10 years, we've only had two closers win the Kentucky Derby. One was 2013 with Orb. So Orb came from way out of it. He was 16th and 17th for a lot of the race. Made a huge move on the turn, and when they got into the stretch, he was in position up in the top 3-4 horses there. So his move came in the stretch, and then he still had a move left. His move came on the turn, and then he still had more left in the stretch to get by. So 2013, a closer making a big move on the turn, was able to win. 2014 was California Chrome. He was in third the whole way around, but only just a head behind. So he basically was on the lead. 2015, American Pharoah, same trip as Chrome, basically. It was in third, but was just right there the whole way around the track. 2016, same kind of thing. Nyquist, he was just right there the whole way. In second, third, right there with them. You're going to see a pattern. 2017, Always Dreaming, Gate to Wire. Speed, again, gets the job done. 2018, Justify, stocked for just a minute in second, then took over. Again, Speed is winning the Kentucky Derby. Now, 2019 is interesting. We did have a disqualification. Guess who finished first? Maximum Security, obviously. But guess what he did? He went Gate to Wire. Surprise, more speed. However, he was not the winner. He did get disqualified. So kind of an in-between trip won the Kentucky Derby. The only one that we'll talk about that won a Kentucky Derby with an in-between trip was Country House. Now, again, he finished second. He kind of had that mid-pack type of trip in this one and ran very, very well to get second. Like I said, did move up to first. So we'll count this as Country House, and we'll count this as kind of that mid-pack type of trip because I do think the trip he got is very important when you talk about the potential trip to win this year's race. So we'll count Country House as kind of the mid-pack in-between type of trip. In 2019, we're back to Speed, Authentic, Gate to Wire. That's 2020, Authentic, Gate to Wire with another victory. 2021, hey, have you heard this one before? Gate to Wire, Medina Spirit, another big, victory for a speed horse. And then, of course, 2022, who could forget Rich Strike coming from way out of it, 16th, 17th, 18th place through most of the calls. Different from Orb, he did not make a huge move on the turn to get position. He made a minor move at that. He was still in a lot of traffic as they turned for home. He made all of his move in the stretch, and that is very rare. Now, is it rare for a closer to win the Kentucky Derby? Not really. Is it rare for a closer to make up all the ground or the majority of the ground in the stretch? Very rare. Usually a closer must make a nice move around the turn to get position and still have enough left to close on them late and get the job done. When you look at the two horses that won in the last 10 years that were closers, you had Orb, who got a huge pace, a very fast pace to run into. If you remember that year, they put blinkers on Palace Malice. It was the first time the horse had wore blinkers. And what they said happened was it rained horribly that day. And they put the blinkers on him for the first time. The horse literally got scared. He was the noise of all the other horses hitting their hooves, hitting that muddy ground was so loud, and he couldn't see, and he literally got scared and ran away from them. And if you watch the replay, you can see it. He got scared. He just flew away from him. He said at an extremely fast pace. It was just an oddity that happened, and they obviously did not think he would do what he did. So he got a benefit of a fast pace for sure. And then, of course, last year, the two Japanese horses go nuts up front and just set a blazing pace, and they allow Rich Strike the fractions needed for him to make up that ground, that very, very rare thing to make up most of the ground in the stretch of the Derby. Like I said, don't get it confused. I'm not saying closers can't win the Derby. I'm saying horses that make up all the ground in the stretch and not on the turn. That is very, very rare. Rich Strike was able to do it, and the main reason he was able to do it is because that pace was insane. All right, let's look at what this means for this year's Derby. Let's first go with the speed horses here. I've got them grouped up here. I'm gonna put them up. So these are the horses that are most likely to get that speed trip. And so what I mean by that is maybe they're not gate to wire, but they're right up there, no worse than third. Now, obviously, all these horses won't be no worse than third because that'd be impossible. There's more on this list than 3 horses. But the Japanese horse, Derma Sotogate, no doubt could get the trip. That's 7 out of the last 10 Kentucky Derby winners, 8 if you count Maximum Security God. He's capable of working out that trip. King's Barnes, obviously another one. I know he set a slow pace when he took the Louisiana Derby field gate to wire, but he's still faster than most of the horses in the race. He can get that trip. Verifying, another one, definitely can get the trip. Mage, he's an interesting one, right? He can kind of go either way with this thing because if he breaks, he can get this trip. He hasn't broke very well. So it's very interesting to see, hey, what will Mage do in this situation? If he breaks well, he's definitely got a shot at it. I put him here because he's capable of working out this kind of trip. I don't know if he will or not, though. We'll see how he breaks. Reincarnate, is he good enough to finish the job? I'm not quite sure, but he can get this kind of trip for sure. Jace's Road, another one. Is he good enough? Not sure, but he is a candidate to get this kind of trip. And Cyclone Mischief, he's on the outside looking in right now. Again, some of these horses, are they good enough to actually win even if they get a perfect trip? I'm not sure, but they are candidates to kind of get the same trip that 7 out of the 10, and again, 8 out of the 10, if you want to count Maximum Security, have been able to work out to win the Kentucky Derby. The speed/stalking trip is the trip that wins the Derby the majority of the time since the points era began. Now you see the issue with this Kentucky Derby. If you don't like anybody on this list, it gets a little weird, right? Because with Derma Sotogate, I get it. He's from Japan. The UAE Derby winner never really had a lot of luck. That could be a problem. And I notice I spelled his name wrong. Let me change that for you real quick. So that could be an issue with people. They don't want to do that. King's Barnes, he didn't race as a 2-year-old. That's an issue. Verifying, couldn't win the Bluegrass despite that perfect trip. So all these horses have issues, have problems. There's not a Justify, an American Pharaoh type that's like, this is a speed horse and we can really count and rely on this speed horse. These other ones, you're going to take a risk if you're playing them, but they do, tend to be the horses that have the best shot to get the perfect Derby trip. All right, let's go to those in-betweeners. This is the one, the trip that Country House won with, where I think, you're going to be sitting 8th, 7th, 9th, something like that. I think Practical Move, some people think he's a closer, but he's set decently close to some fast paces here. So I think he will be kind of in that second flight. Two Phil's another one. He might be able to jump up into the first flight if he wants to, but probably more of a second flight type of horse. Rocket Can, another one, and Confidence Game. These are horses that are not dead closers for sure, but they're not really speed horses either. They kind of fit in that in-between, and that's kind of what Country House did. He was able to get in position early where he wasn't all the way towards the back, and he was able to make a little bit of a move. He did not win the race, but he did end up winning the race after a disqualification. So the Country House type trip, these are the ones that kind of fit into that. Now let's go to the closers. These are the Orbs and the Rich Strikes of the world as far as a projected trip. Now, I want to make something clear. Country House coming into the Kentucky Derby that year would have fit into this. He was a deep closer. He changed his tactics, and it worked in the Kentucky Derby. Even if he gets second and they leave Maximum Security up, he changed tactics, and he was still able to fire and ran a huge second at a huge number. Who are the horses from this group that can become in-between type horses and get a little bit better position than you might think? To me, Tappet Trice and Angel of Empire are two horses that might get a little bit better positioning than to be in the closer group, might go into that in-between group. When you think about Tapit Trice, he made a move up the backside of the bluegrass. So if you blacked out, right, and all you saw of the bluegrass was from about midway up the backside all the way home, you would have thought Tapit Trice was a stalker that day. You would have been, wow, he stalked the pace. But no, he really didn't. He broke, okay, better than usual. He was like third from last, and then he made a move up the backside to get into third. I thought that move was important. We talked about Orb. He made a huge move on the turn to get position and was still able to finish. Well, Tapit Trice made his move in the bluegrass up the backside, got in position, and was still able to finish. That's important, and that's why I like him here, because if he doesn't get stuck in a lot of traffic, I have confidence he will get himself in a position when they turn for home. So he might be able to sit more in that in-between category. Angel of Empire, he reminded me of Orb a lot when in his Arkansas Derby. He makes a huge move on the turn. I mean, a big move. And so I think Angel of Empire could sit a little bit closer into that in-between category. I really think he could. So those are kind of two horses, Angel of Empire and Tapit Trice. I could see them getting the Orb type of trip. Tapit Trice maybe makes his move a little bit earlier to get position. Angel of Empire going to move exactly when Orb did, I think. They're two horses that I do think can do what Orb did with a little bit of help up front. Forte, on the other hand, is a kind of an interesting horse. I think he does have the ability, the same as the two horses we just mentioned. We saw him get in traffic in the Florida Derby, and he really wasn't able to uncoil and make that big move until the stretch. Forte, Angel of Empire, Tapit Trice, right? Any of those three horses, if they cannot get positioning into the turn when they make that, or when they come into the stretch at the end of the turn, they're probably not going to win this race unless they get that epic pace meltdown like Rich Strike got last season. I don't think that's going to happen this year. To be fair, I didn't really think it was going to happen last year. Who could have predicted the Japanese horses would go crazy like that? So again, I don't like any of those three horses. If they don't get that positioning into the turn, that's going to be the key to the race for Forte, Angel of Empire, and Tapit Trice. And like I said, I do have confidence that all three can, but if you just look at their last preps, Forte was not able to do that. And that does kind of show you, well, if you get drawn inside, if you get jockeyed back, if you're having trouble, these three horses are in some trouble. I think all of them want middle to outside post. The rest of on here, Lord Miles, Raise Cane, Hit Show, Sun Thunder, Disarm, Continuar, Skinner, Major Dude, Mandarin Hero, and King Russell. All of them are probably going to have to win with that Orb / Rich Strike type of trip. The biggest thing is, like I said, getting that position on the turn where you hit that stretch. And even though you may have been 15 when the turn started, you're up in 4th, 3rd, 5th, 2nd when you get to the stretch. That's going to be the big key. I'm not sure if any of those horses can make a move that I just mentioned, not the first three, but the rest of them can make that kind of move and still kick on at the end of the day. So that's going to be the big challenge. I don't love playing closers in the Derby, but it does seem like the best horses in this crop do come from out of it, at least right now. So again, the conclusion of this for me, this is the easiest trip right here. The speed trip is the easiest route to winning the Kentucky Derby. It is the easiest path. However, your group of horses to choose from this list, they've got problems. They've got issues. I mean, you think about it. Like let's take Arabian Night, for example, who won the Southwest and then got hurt and was off the trail. Let's pretend he would have won another race, another prep, and he's sitting right here off of 3 straight wins and 2 prep wins. That's the kind of candidate you sink your teeth into with this speed trip this year, and you go, you know what? That horse is going to be tough. He can sit the trip. We've seen the track record. And again, you do have Kings Barnes, who's 3 for 3, but he didn't race as a 2-year-old. He's only had 1 Kentucky Derby prep under his belt. So he's got issues. Like I said, Derma, UAE Derby, they just haven't ran very well. He's got issues. Verifying Perfect Trip, couldn't win last time out. He's got issues. Mage, can't break. I mean, it's doubtful that he even gets this position. And the rest of them just haven't been able to finish the big-time races off. So it is one of those years where your speed horses are a little bit funky, and so it does open it up for a closer or in between to get the job done. And like I said, if you get that in-between trip and you make that move, You know, the Fortes, the Angel of Empires, the Tapit Trice. You go to the in-between horses like Practical Move, Two Fills. They can definitely win from off the pace this year, without any doubt. But still, wouldn't want to be a closer that has to make up all the ground in the stretch. You're going to be in trouble if that's the case. So hopefully that kind of clears up the trips, the projected trips, and what it's going to take for the horses this year to win the 2023 Kentucky Derby. You know, the way it sets up on paper, it is very interesting. Wouldn't be shocked if a horse from the speed category wins it, but I'm looking for that closer who can get that position and make that move at the right time and still have enough left to go get whoever's ahead of them turning for home. All right, guys, thanks everybody for watching this video on the Kentucky Derby projected trips. Good luck if you're playing the Kentucky Derby. Hit that like button if you like it. Hit subscribe if you really like this. We'll see you next time.
RacingDudes.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track across the country. We're ramping up for the 2023 Kentucky Derby, and we want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to Racing Dudes YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.